A couple of weeks back, I wrote a blog post that was talking about how I wanted to use Google Earth and KML files in the classroom, and I was just having a hard time finding an efficient way to do it, and how that project got away in creating this geteach.com. This is the first lesson that I knew that I could kind of put in a digital format and make it more engaging for students. And this is it. It's gone through kind of many iterations, but this is the last one I gave, right? So our curriculum in Texas are called the TEKs. Some people call it the TEKs, I call it the TEKs. And this is a physical geography kind of climate influences on climate regions kind of lesson. So World Geography 4A, the student understands the patterns and characteristics of major landforms, climates, and ecosystems of the Earth, and the interrelated processes that produce them. So it's just a typical kind of patterns and processes. The student is expected to explain how elevations, latitude, wind systems, ocean currents, position on a continent, and mountain barriers influence temperature, precipitation, and the distribution of climate regions. And then this part C is explain the influences on the distribution of biomes in different regions. So looking at how climate influences ecosystems. In the columns here, I have city and country. So I've filled out this first one just kind of for an example for the students so they can understand what level of detail I want them to be looking at these spatial distributions. The remaining cities do not have the country with them, so it's a way for students to understand locations or get that kind of foundational location information without having to color a bunch of maps. Right? So just do it within the lessons themselves. This next column is the climate type description. So temperature is and precipitation. I need to have the students just describe the patterns that they see using climographs. This next column, which factors are influencing the climate of the region. So they're all going to, latitude is pretty heavy influence on most climates, with pressure cells and all of that. But I just want the students to kind of go through these different climate influences, to see how they are all interrelated, and then describe that interrelation here, and then identify and describe the ecosystem of the region, and then insert an image so they have an idea of what lives within that region, within that biome, right? And then also I want them to look at how climate, temperature, and precipitation is influencing that biome, so the amount of rain and the temperatures themselves, how they're influencing, in this case, chaparral, which is small evergreen trees with low brush, so how precipitation temperature lead to that. All right. So what the students do, and I walk them through the first example, Algiers, Algeria, I'll do the same for y'all, is they go to geteach.com, and down in the corner of each map canvas, so this is map canvas 1, and this is map canvas 2, I'm going to load up the climates and the layers. So to do that, I click select map, make sure it's on map canvas 1, and then I'll click climate. And what that's going to pull up in this map canvas is the climate regions map with these cities that are pre-populated with kind of caution signs, so the students will click on it. If I click here, the layers load whenever I load the map. So there's a layer in here for climate regions. There's a digital elevation models map. There's a wind current map. There's an ocean current map, correct? For latitude, if you click that was one of the climate influences. If you click this measurements tool, wherever my hand is, that's what the latitude is reading. It doesn't go right on this marker. It kind of stops right before it, but it's close enough for what we're doing. Mountain barriers, you can use the digital elevation model here. You could also, if you're on these files, if you want to look at the elevation tool, just to kind of show your students, just click 2 points and you can see the elevation of the area. Also, you can load up other people's KML files. So for example, Peter Spiegel has, in his blog post on Google Earth, has some files of like mountain ranges of the world, And these are KML files that he's hosting in Drive. So I'm just going to copy this link, show you real quick. I'm going to go ahead and change this to map canvas 2. So that means whatever I put here, click here, it's going to come over here. I'm just going to paste Peter's URL there, and then that says Drive KML. Okay, so you can see mountain barriers that Peter so graciously drawn and shared with everybody, right? So there's the Atlas Mountains right there. So that's pretty cool. For right now, though, I'm just going to use the layers that are already in GeTeach. So I'm going to go back here, make sure it says Map Canvas 2, click Climate again. There's my layers now. So the first one I'm going to look at is latitude, because I tell my students that's probably a good idea. You know, knowing latitude gives you a pretty good hunch on what the temperature and precipitations are going to be, right? So Algiers latitude is 36 degrees north and 3 degrees east, so pretty close to the prime meridian, and about 36 degrees away from the equator, which is kind of pretty good in the winter, but not as good in the summer months. And the reason why is, you know, again, temperature-wise, you're pretty close to the equator, so it's going to be pretty warm year-round. Wind currents rise, those, if I back up a little bit, you can see that in the right around 30 degrees is where you have your highs, high pressure system, right, moving away here. So again, this is Hadley cells, kind of that blocking influence of high pressure sitting on top of the Sahara Desert, right about 30 degrees. So because of the position, right, pretty big continent landmass, where the climate features, other climate controls can't get there. The same exact mirror effect kind of happens here in Australia, by the way, mostly arid region. This is the warm ocean currents. The cool ocean currents are on the western side here, and then your winds are kind of blocking, right? Or your pressure systems are kind of blocking. All right, so back to Algiers. When I click on the little caution, I get the climate graph. So there's your temperature pattern, so pretty year all year round. More rain in the winter than in the summer, but it's not a whole lot of rain altogether. Go to Singapore and you can see the difference between tropical wet and Mediterranean pretty easily, right? So real close to the equator, hence the flat line, and then pretty consistent temperature throughout. If I go to Paraguay, you can see it in the southern hemisphere because the temperature line drops in June, July, and August. But pretty decent amount of precipitation, so there's humid subtropical for you. If you just click on any of the polygons, you'll see that says climate region, humid subtropical, tropical wet and dry, tropical wet, humid subtropical, again, kind of mirroring itself as aforementioned. Right, so there's the pattern that I need to describe. I've already clicked through for y'all these different elevation, digital elevation models, wind currents, ocean currents, position on the continent. So this is kind of near the Mediterranean. So at least you're kind of by a water. The only problem is that it's a kind of a cool ocean current right here. So there's less evaporation taking place, meaning less precipitation overall, right? So that's what I have the students look for and then describe it. So the climate type, if I look again back at the climate graph here, year-round warm temperatures, of course warmer in the summer than in the winter, but still year-round pretty warm. And then not a lot of precipitation or rain, in this case more in the winter than in the summer. And that's what I wrote. So Mediterranean climate is warm year-round with limited precipitation. The rain in the region is more frequent in the winters than the summer. So again, you have to look at both temperature and precipitation. They need to describe both temperature and precipitation. And then the climate factors that are influencing, I just picked a couple here. So the region is in a low latitude, keeping temperatures warm. In addition, the region is just north of 30-degree lines, but close enough to be influenced by latitudinal high pressures in the summer months, limiting precipitation during that time. So that's kind of the description of, you know, the primary climate controls for this Mediterranean climate in Algiers, Algeria. The last step that the students do again is look at a ecosystems map, actually out of a textbook. I don't have a ecosystems map that's simple enough or simplified enough for students to kind of use. So if you have one, please send it to me. Chaparral is the ecosystem that matches with Mediterranean, small evergreen trees, low brush. Right, Mediterranean climate is warm climate with limited precipitation, so you have to have kind of limited grasslands and kind of small squatty brush trees, right? And for the picture, goats and trees, it's kind of my favorite Mediterranean climate type of image. That way students can see kind of the limited grasslands to the point where goats have to get into the trees to eat. So that's the lesson description for climate controls that I use in the classroom. I've been using for several years. So again, looking at climate patterns and then these kind of controls, climate controls that are influencing the patterns that they see, and then that impact on biomes themselves. I'm going to put the links to the Google Doc underneath. That way, if you want to make a copy, you can. You can change it, do whatever you want with it. But yeah, I'm excited that you were able to see how we use geteach.com in my classroom. Thanks.